We finally had our first official look at Grand Theft Auto 6, and whilst it's confirmed a lot of what we knew from leaks over the years, such as the setting and the characters, there's still a lot we don't know and can only theorise on. However, there's one point of discussion that isn't getting nearly as much attention as it should, which is the trailer's tone and specifically how it relates to the franchise's past. GTA 5's first trailer gave us some idea of the story, at least the starting point for Michael's character as a retired criminal dragged back into the underworld. We saw more in the ways of crime. GTA 6's trailer, on the other hand, barely touched on story, and even when showing brief glimpses of a high-speed chase or an aggressive police house call, set to a Tom Petty track felt very light, joyful even. Certainly appropriate for the triumphant first look after 10 years since the last game, but also potentially telling about where the game sits compared to GTA 5. Before his exit from Rockstar, former co-founder Dan Houser said in an interview in 2018 with GQ that he was thankful that GTA 6 wasn't released in that period, since it would be hard to mock both the left and right of the political sphere during a time where things had gotten so militant, which 5 years on, frankly, isn't any different. Grand Theft Auto's irreverent tone was always about shining a mirror on society and allowing the most deranged to step into the limelight to be cynically laughed at as a distraction from the doldrums of our actual lives. A great example would be the talk radio stations, often a severely underappreciated part of the game's tapestry of humour. This would be a place where the most out there, crackpot voices of the world got a chance to espouse their backwater points of view in a way that was designed to be laughed at. Actual radio stations wouldn't let unqualified nutjobs go on their airwaves and preach theories that fly in the face of science and reason, and that's what made it funny. Except that's not really funny anymore, because those voices are on the radio, the television and the internet. They're not just weird guest callers, they're hosts, presenters and politicians. What once seemed like a joke at the most extreme but easily ignored fringes of society would now set off the half of the world that thinks that COVID was a hoax. These aren't parody characters anymore, they're just the kind of people that you come across on Twitter every day. But also, more importantly, the story of Grand Theft Auto 5's entire main campaign relied on this satire. Its characters may have been three-dimensional and its plot beats immersive, but it wasn't short on ruthlessly punching holes in society as part of its message. The series was 16 years old and perhaps more full of fury and bile for the world around it than ever. Grand Theft Auto 5 was about honour versus selfishness, about past versus future. It was about a soulless corporate world that taught people to prioritise their position in the system above human connection. Throughout the story, someone is always screwing someone else out of what they're owed, from the antagonist down to the protagonist themselves. It mocks the American dream and the pursuit of it as the system is broken. The world is capitalistic and consumerism rules the day. Fame is the ultimate ideal, being important is all that matters. It's a deeply troubled but absolutely valid view of what felt like was becoming a real problem when the game was released in 2013. 10 years later, however, it's only proven to be true. So what does GTA have left to mock? It sarcastically tore down the world we live in now with incredible veracity a decade ago. What story can it possibly tell about a world that has done nothing except continue to head in the exact direction it predicted and has allowed itself to turn into a GTA-style parody? What jokes then does Grand Theft Auto have left to make? And to be fair, it's not like Rockstar can look down on the consumerism and pity it, considering it spent the last 10 years endlessly rolling out tired updates to GTA Online. That's not to say that GTA 6 can't be funny. Some of the series' best jokes are the smaller touches or those that you might miss. But it does present a big question about its themes and how sharp its satire can truly be. The trailer hasn't given us a great indication. Its use of vertical video a la TikTok doesn't really tell us anything concrete, and its leaning into the lunacy of classic Florida Man stories isn't exactly cutting edge. However, on the flip side, GTA 6 will be seen as political no matter what it does by some people by simply daring to have a woman in the starring role. Not that Grand Theft Auto hasn't had women in it before, but for the most part, with few exceptions like Catalina, they're unremarkable. It's long overdue for the series to embrace an equal parts female protagonist like Lucia. Trailer 2, when it eventually does come, could be more focused on Jason to balance things back out, but it's very telling that Rockstar led with Lucia here as they know it presents something refreshing. And in fact, it might be a better representation of the game's core ideals. And yes, before anyone jumps into the comments, I know that Lucia isn't the franchise's first playable woman, but it is the first since the series went, cinematic and learned how to tell stories rather than put you in the perspective of a top-down silent avatar. It's fascinating to consider what Rockstar's writers could do with a female lead, hopefully constructing a protagonist as fleshed out as previous player characters like Michael, CJ or Nico. It allows for a new perspective on the Grand Theft Auto campaign. After all, it's not as simple as plugging a female character into where typically there's a man. Lucia's interactions with the world, and perhaps more importantly, the world's interactions with her, will be unique. She faces unique challenges, encounters and relationships. If GTA is a reflection of real life, her experience will be vastly different from anything we've seen before. Rockstar has a chance here to craft one of the most realistic and poignant characters in its history. As a woman of colour, she's in the prime position to explore some brand new territory in the series, and because of that, she has a chance to be a real difference maker when it comes to constructing a character we can really root for against the ugliness of the world. Even more so that a big driving force in Lucia's story will clearly be love. Leaks from the last couple of years implied what seems to be true, that GTA 6 is a Bonnie and Clyde story of criminal lovers with Lucia and Jason. As excellently written and complex as GTA 5's volatile relationship between its trio of playable characters was, maintaining and growing a romantic relationship between leads is far more interesting simply because it's never been done before in the franchise. It requires real grounding and has the ability to grant real pathos. Red Dead Redemption 2 was a brilliantly told and very human tale from Rockstar, so they clearly have the ability to do it, but it's never been done in a modern GTA setting. In fact, has GTA ever really had a strong relationship between that many characters? Couples in the franchise are usually portrayed as totally at odds with each other, usually betraying one another and some going so far as to murder their spouse. Friendships fall apart, business relationships often feel and prove to be tenuous connections. Hell, even family is up for debate, as whilst they love each other, cousins Nico and Roman Bellic spend a lot of time at each other's throats. Not to downplay what GTA 5 did right, but it's so much easier to construct a compelling narrative against the backdrop of criminal activity and gang warfare if your story is about anger, honour and betrayal. To write something about more fragile and vulnerable emotions is infinitely more complex. Since Grand Theft Auto 5, there have been changes to Rockstar's corporate makeup. In 2018, it was said that Rockstar was transforming its company, firing toxic managers and aiming for a more positive behind-the-scenes vibe, with an aim for far less crunch that has affected many of its projects, up to and including Red Dead Redemption 2. In a report from industry insider Jason Schreier, there was a conceited effort to turn the studio around from a so-called boys club to a legitimate company. Apparently, there was a Cops and Crooks update planned for GTA Online that was pulled in the wake of the 2020 discussions online around police brutality, and the company's employees feeling uncomfortable adding to it. Evidence, perhaps, that Rockstar were aware of how, whether they meant to or not, they added a voice to that conversation depending on their action. Such is the nature of becoming so famous and part of that corporate sphere that they had previously mocked in GTA 5. The most notable change in the company, though, is the departure of lead writer Dan Houser. This is therefore guaranteed to affect the overall tone. Props should be given to the team for taking such a chance on something entirely fresh then, when they have so much to prove. Lucia and Jason's story will require a good sum of screen time and the right pacing, meaning that GTA's tendency for hyper-examination and the takedown of American lifestyles won't be the front and centre of things in 6. The game has already released key art and it focuses entirely on Lucia and Jason. This is a centre point, everything else is just flavour, which, with that kept in mind, viewing the GTA 6 trailer again as largely an introduction to the franchise's mad, potentially dangerous take on Florida, the world our heroes will have to navigate makes a lot of sense. We are being shown the same world that GTA 5 warned us about, a world of excess, but presumably will follow a story that shows that despite all the distractions around us, the human experience is about connection. Which is perhaps the way things should be. For Grand Theft Auto to evolve, it needs to focus on great experiences and compelling single-player narratives, something that we haven't experienced for 10 years due to the lack of GTA 5's single-player DLC. It can and should still be funny, referential and satirical, but it can't let taking potshots become its identity. Otherwise, in many ways, it risks being defined by the cynicism that it previously used to cut down the world in a time where we need something more positive. We need something we can resonate with. After spending decades snobbishly taking everyone down a peg or two, which arguably the world deserved, GTA has found itself the authority authority figure. It's the big dog of the gaming industry kennel. And it's time for GTA to look inward and grow up. Grand Theft Auto 6 has the chance to be something as emotionally cathartic as it is the standard franchise fare of chaotic. If you're excited for GTA 6, we all are here at What Culture Gaming. Here's a video you can click now to continue the hype. I've been Si, thanks for watching, and have a good week.